Now, in the Word it said, ye are gods. In other words, here in Exodus, these men are called gods. Those who were to judge and enact God's judgment on men. It doesn't mean in any wise that they were, as the eternal God, the creator of heaven and earth, and thus acting for God, they were called Elohim, gods. I went into that to give you just a background to the scripture that Jesus referred to in the Gospel of John, because the Mormons, because of that one reference of Christ to this scripture, ye are gods, have built the whole doctrine of man's progression into God. And that if you are a faithful Mormon, and your marriage has been sealed in the Mormon temple, and you've gone through the rites, and you wear your underwear and the whole thing, what that has to do with making you a god, I don't know, but you can be one. And you will be gods. That's their teaching. And you and your wife, who has been sealed to you in marriage, will be able to go to a planet, and you will be able to start your own little world on that planet. And other Mormons and good people, Christians and all, who weren't faithful, true Mormons all the way, who didn't quite make it to the God stature, will be your angels and will serve you in your own system that you inaugurate, and you will be God over that planet, and you will watch over that planet and develop and so forth a whole life form and style and all from your offspring there in some planet in the universe. Now that is the acknowledged, recognized goal of the Mormon. Now, Brigham Young did something that has upset a lot of Mormons, in that he has carried this particular concept back one step instead of forward one step. If you carry it forward one step, every Mormon will acknowledge that that is the goal, and that is the purpose, and that is their desire to be God, and they are ascending the scale in progression into godhood. And to have their own planet and take their wife and begin their own little experiment on a planet someplace. Brigham Young carried it back one step. And he said that Adam was a good Mormon who progressed into God. And he brought to the earth one of his celestial wives, Eve. And they began to have their children, and that they began to populate the earth, and that Adam is our God and the only God with whom we have to do. Now, Mormons get very upset about that, and they say, oh, you've taken what he said out of context. But I challenge you, read the whole context of that sermon, and you'll find that it isn't taken out of context. It is actually consistent with the Mormon doctrine. But it takes it back one step instead of forward one step. And why not? If you and your wife can be a god on a planet someplace and start the whole thing off, why wasn't Adam a man somewhere in another planet within the universe and became faithful and true and all and ascended into the godhood and, of course, brought one of his celestial wives, Eve, and started the whole thing? Now, that whole system of thought and idea taken from one little verse in the New Testament where Jesus said, "Did I not say in the law, ye are gods?" And from that one little verse, this whole system of thought and doctrine that you're going to be God, providing you are a faithful Mormon and so forth, has come out of that one verse of Scripture. Rather than researching and finding out what that Scripture was referring to. Not at all a progression into the Godhood as such. It's not what that is teaching. In fact, that desire to be God is the thing that has started the whole problem with the human race and with the angels prior. When you read of Satan's fall in Isaiah 14, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" And he goes on to tell of his will against the will of God. The fifth statement of Satan was, "I will be like the Most High." Shakespeare has someone saying, "O Cromwell, flee ambition, for by this sin did the angels fall. I will be like God." When Adam and Eve were in the garden and Satan came to Eve to tempt her to eat of the fruit that God had forbidden, what was the enticement that Adam held out to her? "The day that you eat of it, you will be wise as gods." And so that desire to be wise as God is the thing that he used to trip Eve up in the garden. Be like God. Be as God. So it is the same thing that is being held out to people today. But the word judges, Elohim, does not refer at all to the living, eternal God who created the heavens and the earth, but men who are appointed to judge in the cases that are brought before them, and in judging are representing God and are acting for God, holding the lives and the destiny of these men in their hands. It is so that the judges will realize the awesome responsibility that they have as a judge.